This is a Chucky Beat production.
And I am so proud to be here, folks, because I love activists. If we're going to take this country back, it's going to be activists that does it. And you're it. Praise God. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We, ladies and gentlemen, mean us, the American people, not some bumbleheads in Washington, D.C. It's us, not them.
My name is Sergeant Rick Schiff. I'm an 11-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department. I hold the department's highest Medal of Honor for bravery. That used to mean a lot more to me than it does now. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my now 7-year-old daughter.
My name is Zach Taylor. I'm a retired Border Patrol officer. My main job was understanding and having intelligence capabilities about drug smuggling across the U.S. border.
Hello, I'm Ted Gunderson. I retired from the FBI in 1979 after more than 27 years service. At the time of my retirement, I was the senior special agent in charge of the FBI Los Angeles Division, with more than 700 people under my command and a budget of more than $22.5 million.
Hi, my name's Chip Tatum, and I'm an ex-intelligence officer for the United States government. 25 years ago, I started my service as a young airman in the United States Air Force. I went through Special Forces training as a combat controller and was subsequently sent to Vietnam.
Today, I have with me Chip Tatum. This man is unbelievable. 25 years, CIA Black Ops operator. Chip, welcome. I retired, as you all know, in 79, came out, worked the McDonald case. The light bulb went on when I realized evidence lost, stolen, destroyed, altered, etc., etc. Listen and watch. You will be amazed at what you hear.
Nothing ever gets done until activists get involved. And we're going to take this nation back, doggone it. We're going to take it back for God and the Constitution.
And human smuggling across the U.S. border to bring contraband and people into the United States. That's what I did for 26 years.
At the peak of the pyramid, you've got a tiny, tiny few people who know everything there is to know about that organization. They know its real agenda, its real motivation, where it's really seeking to go.
But it's only through activism that we're going to do it. And you are the reason that I'm here today. Praise God. And I'm just so pleased to serve with you at this time in our nation's history.
Right now, Department of Homeland Security is in charge of, through Customs and Border Protection, the apprehension and collection of the illegal aliens.
The further you come down from that pyramid peak in any organization, you're meeting more and more and more people who know less and less and less about what that organization's agenda really is. They only know their part in it.
This is an identical twin. Her sister is now dead. Her sister, when she was 4 years old, Kristen, developed a highly malignant brain tumor that had spread throughout her spine and her brain.
Center for Disease Control and Prevention is in charge of the screening with the U.S. Public Health Service. I've never seen the CDC or U.S. Public Health Service work together with the Border Patrol at the border, ever.
Obtained a confession from Alina Stokely, the girl in the floppy hat, who said that he didn't commit the crime. Dr. McDonald did not commit the crimes. They were committed by my satanic cult group.
When Washington decided to order Operation Red Rock, the president ordered that no one can ever know, and to ensure that the men performing the mission didn't return.
The agents are telling us that they're seeing some people that are obviously sick, with shivering type illnesses, with possibly dehydrating illnesses like diarrhea and vomiting.
They call it compartmentalization. I always also call it the mushroom approach. Keep them in the dark and feed them bullshit.
God bless all of you out there. I appreciate it very much. I have our publication here, Aid and Abet Police Military Newsletter, and I want to share something with you here.
Those people are disappearing. We don't know what they have, where they're going, where they're taking them. Surely they're being quarantined somewhere, we just don't know where. And even the agents don't know what the diagnosis is of these illnesses.
I went public with the information. I obtained the confession on October 25, 1980. A number of TV shows, radio talk shows, people came out of the woodwork from all parts of the country.
The doctors told us that we had really two options: take her home, let her die, or bring her in for massive dosages of chemo and radiation simultaneously. In either event, she was going to die. They were quite certain of that, and very quickly.
Tie that in with the fact that these people can come through almost anywhere in the world and are funneling into Mexico.
Through this pyramid system, well into the 90% of people who are daily in their jobs in this city and other cities around the world, who are daily pushing this world towards more and more centralization of power.
From the day I joined Task Force 160 at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, until today, I've seen nothing but government corruption.
And we already know there's epidemic levels of certain diseases in Mexico and Central America.
Telling me about the satanic cult movement in this country, the United States. People on the East Coast, West Coast, South, and so on and so forth. Same basic story. And they not only told me about the cults, but they told me about the inner workings of the cult.
I have a good buddy at one time, J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI. He was not a homosexual like they say. That was a lie that they built up to discredit him.
We don't know if these people are showing these diseases, if they're even being screened for them.
Who are daily pushing this world towards more and more centralization of power on a global level, either don't realize they're doing it because they don't see the big pattern, or they don't realize the implications of what they're doing.
Believing her only chance to be the standard route, we gave her the chemo and radiation. It burned her skull so bad she had second-degree burns and her hair never came back.
The real troubling part of this is we know that in West Africa right now, there's an Ebola outbreak that does not meet the parameters of communicable diseases.
Not a lot of detail, but enough that I could piece it together. And I'm saying, how could somebody from Maine know and furnish the same information as somebody from Southern California?
Many of you will wonder why I've decided to come forward today and how I can come forward as an ex-officer for the CIA, for the DIA, NSC. And let me explain that to you.
Normally, Ebola virus starts in the jungle and moves into an indigenous population in the jungle, and then from there into a larger population area.
And all these aspects of life, the banking system is a pyramid, so is the media, so is the secret society network of the world, so is the multinational corporation network.
40 years ago, he said the individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it even exists.
What they're experiencing in West Africa in 3 countries right now is an Ebola outbreak in 3 separate cities at the same time. This is very unusual.
As a result of that, of course, then I obtained a copy later on of Pawns in the Game, and this book, Pawns in the Game, which I sold out of on this conference.
To change her diapers, we had to wear rubber gloves because her urine was so toxic and it burned her. At the end of 6 months, miraculously, she survived the standard treatment, although there was a high expectation she wouldn't.
It is almost as if the virus was planted in those 3 cities to infect that population. It is almost as if the virus was planted in those 3 cities to infect that population.
And at the peak of their pyramids, they fuse into one global pyramid peak, where a tiny few people, maybe no more than 13 families.
I can come forward today because a federal judge has ordered at a federal trial that I was a defendant in, that the items that I wanted to discuss and present in my trial were not classified.
In other words, the virus is working in the reverse of what it has historically. Before it moved from the jungle into the populated area, now it's starting in the most populated areas in those cities and working through the population.
Really explained what has happened in the last 240 or 50 years.
And that's the problem we have today. This conspiracy is so monstrous, so demonic, that we tell people about it and they say, you're crazy. This is America. It can't happen here. So J. Edgar Hoover said that.
If we had a control event, I'll give you an example. Border Patrol has a drug smuggling operation and they've been surveilling it. And after the car loads up and takes off, we stop the car.
Pervade down the pyramid an all-encompassing policy which pushes us daily towards more and more centralization of power.
She still had cancer. We were told, sorry, we've done everything we can. Now she's going to die, probably within a couple of months.
And the person driving the car hands us a diplomatic passport, saying they're a diplomatic alien inside the United States. We stop right there.
And that is this, that in 1773, Adam Weishaupt, a Bavarian, former priest.
And the reason he decided to do that is the last thing that judge wanted to do was allow that courtroom to hear what I had to say.
We call the Department of State. The Department of State takes it from there. The person is not prosecuted.
This is a Chucky Beat
yes,
production.
we may or may not seize the vehicle and the drugs.
I was commissioned to obtain or come up with the 25 with goals to take over the world. And on May the 1st, 1776, he announced the 25 goals.
That it was a conspiracy so monstrous that people don't even believe it exists. And that's the problem we have today, folks, is doing that. Convincing people that this conspiracy is real.
The United States public never knows that happened. That's a controlled event.
The goals are unbelievable if you look at them one by one and then analyze what's happened today. Corrupt the youth through sex and drugs, control the press.
My wife and I, choosing not to accept that, started reading. The first book I picked up, the 3rd chapter, discussed Dr. Brzezinski.
In this situation, where you have hundreds of thousands, literally, of people coming across the border, and you're only catching a small fraction.
They create an incident and then come in and act as the saviors, like the Reichstag, and we saw this in Oklahoma City.
They can delay your speedy trial acts in the interest of justice and because the courts are backed up. So everyone needs to understand that the federal court system is a very one-sided system.
If you're not telling the public that 80 to 90% of what's coming across the border is not being apprehended, and you're putting their focus on this 10% that is being apprehended.
So then, not only did I, of course, research the Illuminati and come up with the answer there, but these people kept calling me from around the country. They've been calling me now for 22 years.
But praise God, we have all the evidence needed to prove to anybody, if they'll just look at the evidence, that 9/11 was an inside job, right?
Only showing them the 1% that are 6, 8, 10 years old and appeal to the compassion of the American people.
And based on the information that's been furnished to me, this evil element has infiltrated virtually every level of society.
As you may guess, I have some expertise in fraud. In fact, I'm quite certain there are enough attorneys in the room that I could be vordeered as an expert in fraud.
And not show them, the people with these serious communicable diseases, the fact that they are known gang members, they have the gang tats all over them.
It's in the government. They've gone out of their way, of course, to infiltrate in city, county, state, and the federal government.
It's interesting that during testimony by federal agents in the pretrial portion, in the bond portion, federal agent is allowed to lie on the stand and won't be held accountable for that lie.
Because they do not have a conviction in the United States, they're turned loose free in the United States.
It's in the banking system, it's in the courts, it's in the prosecutors, the attorneys, the doctors. It's mind-boggling, it's unbelievable.
I want to tell you that there are red and blue lists out there. Have you already heard about the red and blue list, okay?
We don't know when CDC takes custody of one of these people from Homeland Security and whisks them off somewhere we don't know where.
By the way, this dovetails, the satanic cult movement dovetails into, as part of the Illuminati, dovetails into drugs, prostitution, homosexuality.
And I conducted my own investigation. I have no doubt the man is not a fraud. I have no doubt that he does what he does out of earnest belief that his medicine works.
What disease they have been diagnosed with. We know it's communicable. We assume it's serious.
I've been asked on a number of occasions, how many are there in the United States? Just say walk in the streets. And I say that there's close to 4 million, if not 4 million, practicing Satanists in America today.
If the CIA has actually been involved in smuggling drugs into the United States, as I know for the last 45 years they've been doing.
But that is being kept away not only from the agents in the Department of Homeland Security, it is part of the controlled event where America doesn't realize how serious the threat is.
Practicing Satanists in America today, that's 1.5% of the population. I reached these figures through 3 different means.
But anyway, I've had people calling me saying they go out to their mailbox and they find a little red dot or a little blue dot on their mailbox, and they wonder what the little red dot and blue dot is.
And they're only being shown the compassionate side of the situation. That 1 to 2% of those 160,000 that appeal to the compassionate side of the people of the United States.
Number 1, a confidential source in South Bay area, Los Angeles, population 200,000, says there's about 3,000 members in that area. That's where the Manhattan Beach McMartin case took place.
And now you're in a position to judge for yourselves whether it works or not. But it's well established by the FDA that it's non-toxic.
What the people don't realize, that it is putting their own children at risk. Because these children are going to be put in schools with their children.
Lincoln, Nebraska, 200,000 population. Another source told me about 3,000 members there.
How do you keep all these people quiet? Because it takes a lot of people.
Well, the way we keep them quiet is working with the Justice Department.
This administration and past administrations have not lived up to enforcing the rule of law with regards to national security and immigration laws.
Iowa City, Iowa, another source told me about 1,500 Iowa City's a population of 100,000.
So they wonder what the little red dot and blue dot is. Well, it's marking your mailbox by the government, so when foreign troops come in here on us after martial law, if you have a red dot on your mailbox, they take you out immediately and shoot you right in the head.
The reason we're having the press of the Central American miners is because this particular administration has invited them to come here.
So if you project those figures, that's what I see as the strength and the number of individuals who are involved in this movement at basically at the street level and also in controlling positions in various industries.
18 months later, we took my daughter off the anti-neoplastin. She had not died. She had no signs of tumor. She remained free for 18 months of cancer.
The problem, as I see it, and as apparently because Centers for Disease Control, Health and Human Services, and Department of Homeland Security are trying to make this a controlled situation, they're anticipating a large national crisis.
It is a serious problem. What we're going to do about it, I don't know. The best we can do is just expose it and try to wake up America.
And anybody that threatens to expose any of this, we simply charge them with offense. Either we fabricate the charges or simply charge them for doing what we ordered them to do.
When you see that FEMA is preparing for 200 million deaths in the United States, that tells you something.
It dovetails into the banking system, as Eustace will tell you, I'm sure. And it's even in the military.
But if you have a blue dot, they take you to the FEMA camps being built by Halliburton right now to house 50 million Americans. They're building enough concentration camps in America by Halliburton that Cheney's getting rich off of.
When you see that the government is controlling the supply of ammunition and that basic medical supplies are in short supply in southern Arizona, something's wrong.
As Bo mentioned to me, I think just yesterday, the military declared Satanism a legitimate religion and they can practice. What year was that, Bo?
Within a month, the cancer was widespread in her brain. We put her back on Brzezinski's. By the way, at the objections of our doctors, for some reason felt that it had failed her.
They are anticipating something drastic. If they had enforced the law, if they didn't enforce the immigration law, and if they had expeditiously removed these people that came here, this group of minors.
1976, it was the year I changed on my dog tag my religion to Special Forces.
And they end up in federal prison. Usually federal judges will cooperate, as I describe in my books, where federal judges will not let them bring in any of the CIA witnesses.
They would have dealt with this situation. The way they are reacting to it is facilitating and inviting more of the same.
And the Inspector General was very chagrined because he came and said, Bo, you're the commander of Special Forces. We cannot gig you. We don't want to. You've got to change your dog tag.
Vice President Cheney's getting rich off of, to put those with the blue dot on your mailbox in those concentration camps.
So what they're doing is making a bad situation much worse.
You've got to change your dog tag. And I said, look, if you can put Satanism as your religion, as an official Army recognized religion, don't tell me I can't have Special Forces as my religion.
We put her back on. Within 9 weeks, the tumor was completely gone. She died last July of neurological necrosis. Her brain fell apart from the radiation.
The real reason these people are probably coming here from an intelligence point of view is to mask or draw attention away from something else that is happening.
And so the troops heard about it and they all changed their religion to Special Forces too.
Or won't let them produce the CIA, the documents showing that they were CIA, and they end up in prison. And this, I mean, there's hundreds of people that this has happened to.
Since the United States government is encouraging this, it is something that the United States government wants to happen.
Do I think that the FBI and the CIA, I'm not talking about the whole group. There's a lot of good people in both agencies.
Now, if you go out and you find a pink dot on your mailbox, that means that they believe you'll be a good slave and you're going to go along with the program and serve our international Antichrist masters.
They have significant CIA, FBI, Department of State, Homeland Security, Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, you name it, in Central America right now, have been there a long time.
But do I think that they're incompetent? No. Do I think they've been infiltrated? Yes. And in the FBI in particular, I'll tell you what happened here when Reagan was president.
The autopsy showed that she was completely cancer-free. Out of 52 cases of that disease ever, no one died cancer-free, just Chrissy.
They know what's going on. We're not doing anything to stop the obvious threat.
They were having difficulty getting agents on the street to advance to the supervisory level. Of course, that's a very important position.
I know that flying from base to base in the United States, many of the Army bases have received orders to set up containment areas for some type of prisoners, for some type of activity. What that is, I don't know, but I can tell you that they're being built and they exist.
2 years ago, I became acquainted with a person that lives in Mexico City.
And because the fun is on the street, it's not sitting behind a desk all day pushing paper. So they sent a memo out. This is what I've been told by some of my friends.
So watch for that dot. They haven't got up to our area yet because they're afraid we might catch them putting the dots on the mailbox and they wouldn't get back to their home at night, you know, if we catch them.
Have complete, total confidence in this person as an informant. He's beyond reproach. And he told me when I asked him, I was concerned about two things.
To the street agents, anybody that wants to be promoted, submit your resume and let's go from there. Well, as a result, I think that what they did is the good agents stayed on the streets and...
So she didn't die of a terminal illness. She died of my inability to care for her properly, and she died from bad advice.
The trafficking of human organs in Mexico and the extreme violence, the beheadings and dismemberments that were going on in Mexico.
The other agents, the Illuminati members, if you want to call them that, not all of them, of course, advanced to the supervisory level.
Now, I'm not supposed to have this letter, but it's not illegal for me to have it because it's not classified. I've added 5 lines at the bottom about the concentration camps because that's what it really is.
Now, understand this person is pretty much as an unbiased observer that has almost unlimited access to all levels of both government and society in Mexico.
On one occasion,
This is a Chucky Beat
here
production.
during the Atlanta,
This is
Georgia
a Chucky Beat
election,
production.
there was a spokesperson on for the FBI.
But it's time to prepare, folks. It's time to prepare. It's time to work like we're going to win, which we are, but it's also time to prepare like you may lose temporarily.
Without hesitation, he told me that the most influential criminal organization in Mexico City at that time was the Russian Mafia.
On national television in connection with the bombing that took place down there, and I had a call from an adult survivor. Somebody that's born into the movement, the cults.
She died because there's a government institution that disseminates false information and is not looking out for the welfare of the people.
And through other sources, I knew that they were a very important component in Ecuador and in the tri-border area in South America.
Is raised there, gets out, tries to go straight and stay away from it. But I had a call from an adult survivor and said, this person told me, a woman, that she recognized that FBI spokesman as having attended satanic meetings in the past.
There were about 43 of these detention centers, as they were called. And you know, some 6 months ago, they started stocking food in warehouses for the people they were going to put in them.
So when you start to think about the dynamics of what's going on in Mexico, think transnational criminal, think of people beyond Mexico, think beyond Central America.
So I'm saying that, hey, they've had 230 some years to put this together. They're advancing. I know of one adult survivor who was a recruiter and a trainer.
So I'm going to tell all of you, if you have not bought ammunition, if you have not bought guns, go get them now.
And think of criminals, period. The reason they come to the United States is because this is where the money is. The agent is much more afraid of his own government than he is of the transnational smuggler.
She was training other people in San Diego area to recruit survivors. And she was recruiting 26 people at a time. Other people, teaching them how to recruit in the satanic movement.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
Because they're not only messing with the agent's pay right now, they're telling him to run away from the assault. You know, if somebody wants to fight, leave them alone. Don't shoot at anybody.
This hierarchy is hidden hierarchy that we have. I've tried to research and locate a headquarters for this element.
But in the last few months, they've increased to over 130. And many of them are on military active installations.
They just told the local border patrol here that they're not going to get any ammunition for their rifles until 2015. What's that about?
It'd be nice if we knew where that was, and also how often they meet and where they meet. Do you have any information on that?
Go get them now, because you won't be able to get them much longer.
They're not going to have any practice ammo for their Car 4s until 2015. Well, that's over a year away.
Well, for quite a few years, I believe that the headquarters was the office of N.M. Rothschild in London. And I still think that they do have a special office somewhere.
And on what was former some of the 96 closed military installations that were supposed to be returned to the citizens as real estate and so forth.
So what is it that the Border Patrol agents aren't going to get? Where historically, Department of Homeland Security used to buy ammunition for the Border Patrol by the boxcar load.
But it's these people. Now there is also behind the scenes a demonic force, whether it's extraterrestrial or what it, but it's definitely a demonic.
We got Bush and Cheney and Osama bin Laden in the Carlisle group together, and guess what they're doing?
You're saying the Border Patrol agents in Tucson sector have to ration their ammunition for the next 14, 15 months?
This is a Chucky
We can't use it.
Anti-human operation. And that's why I say I've never been able to get, I've never seen any artist rendering or imagining of this force, because apparently it's something so horrible we can't even conceive of it.
Now, they've already stockpiled food for the people they're going to put in there, and then this letter says, the subject of it, and the date of it's July 1994, and they're supposed to come up with the guidance on how to set up these camps.
They're doing zero accountability. In other words, they can't shoot any of it, and it's being accounted for round for round.
Are we losing sight of the fact that Oklahoma City, the World Trade Center 93, and that 911 is actually a ploy in order to take away many of our constitutional rights and civil liberties?
And guess what they're doing? They're buying up all the American ammunition companies that make up ammo in America. The Carlisle group's buying them up so that you and I can't get any ammunition.
The rules are you have to practice, you have to qualify, demonstrate proficiency at a minimum level with each firearm that you're authorized to use. Handgun, shotgun, rifle.
And then if you're going to conquer the world, you got to conquer the United States first, because we're the strongest in the world. And in order to conquer us, you can do several things. Number one, you have to control the food, as Henry Kissinger said.
We have to hold the commander-in-chief, who's now in office, responsible for this, because no four-star general at that headquarters would issue a letter like this unless he'd been ordered to. Do you understand that?
When the agent is, one, not allowed to maintain his basic proficiency with the firearms that he uses and train with them on a quarterly basis, he is less proficient.
Take away your constitutional rights, civil liberties. Put the so-called enemy behind bars and control, and set up the 10 districts that's been set up in this country. So we won't be able to travel from one district to another.
So go out and get your ammunition now and get your weapons now before you can't get them anymore, folks. Things are moving very rapidly.
If he is less proficient and doesn't have access to ammunition, he's less likely to take that firearm in the field and have it available should he need it.
And the internment camps, I was talking to the former civilian head of the prison system in the state of Texas in 1997.
The high security bases are closed bases. Some bases aren't. Some bases have highways that you can drive right through. However, when you look at this area, you'll just think, hey, look at the barbed wire around that place. I wonder what's in there.
That raises the risk level to the individual agent, because the purpose of having the superior fire force is to deter someone from attacking you.
And he told me that there are 8 prisons in Texas, brand new prisons that have been built, that are manned, but there's no inmates in there. So
we're either going to win it soon or we're going to lose it soon. Either one, but I think we're going to win it. Don't you agree?
The whole idea of asymmetrical warfare is to defeat your enemy from within. It is not to attack him from without.
That's, in my opinion, sure, money's part of it, but the bottom line is another step towards taking over the United States and taking over the world. The Illuminati plan, the golden plan.
Well, not much is in there right now, but something will be in there. And it will be people. It won't be equipment. They're not designed to hold a lot of equipment, they're designed to hold a lot of people. They're not warehouse areas.
Of course, the threat comes from without, but they have to be inside of the United States to affect a successful warfare strategy.
Just let me say this, that I don't think there's any question about it. I think that people are waking up, and it started with the Jack Kennedy assassination, followed by Bobby's assassination.
And I've got to get down from here, but I want to leave you with one of my most favorite quotes from Samuel Adams. And you probably heard this one and remember it.
If asymmetrical warfare is going to be successful, the first thing that has to be done is to compromise America's defenses against invasion.
There were more bullets in the walls of Bobby's assassination than there were in Bobby. And it goes on. And
what I have to say may be highly contested and should be highly contested about those in power, because what I have to say about them is not a compliment.
Because they have to have their personnel inside the United States to affect the infrastructure. Our hospitals, our schools, our electric grid, our power supplies, our water supply.
We had Ruby Ridge, and we had Waco, and more recently we had 93 bombings, and then Oklahoma City, and then we have most recently 911. And
he said, if you love wealth better than liberty and tranquility of servitude better than animated context of freedom, go home from us in peace.
But they have to affect the degeneration from inside the United States.
Fabrications, it's impossible on the Jack Kennedy assassination for those bullets to have gone 90-degree angles 3 times.
On that day, on February 26, 1985, after picking up Mr. Cooper and Mr. Sawyer, the pilots, from their meeting in El Paraiso, they came out of the meeting and they had a cooler marked vaccine.
The markers that we're seeing that indicate this is asymmetrical warfare is because the reaction that the United States is taking is they're taking the opportunity of inviting these illegal aliens to come here.
But the people are waking up, and I notice it as I travel around the country, and this is great, this is wonderful, because that's what we have to do. We have to wake people up.
We ask not your counsel or your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands and the feet of those that feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you.
They're concentrating them in one place in the United States, the Rio Grande Valley, and they're drawing the resources that are protecting the rest of the United States border to care for the illegal alien children.
I can say this, that since I got out of the Bureau, FBI, 1979, 23 years ago, and became involved in these issues, that I've done everything I can to wake up my fellow brothers and sisters.
The cooler was a large cooler, probably about a 96 or 100 quart size, if you understand the sizes of coolers, very large, commercial grade. It was sealed and it was marked vaccine.
To help with the overflow of the miners, to transport, to take care of the needs of these people while they're in Homeland Security custody.
Along the way, I've lost an awful lot of people that I thought were friends. I mean, they don't even return phone calls anymore, but I don't care, because it's important that we follow the path of truth.
And may posterity forget that you were ever our countrymen.
All this takes the resources that are protecting America at the border off of the border. So now the borders are wide open.
That we don't weave to the left or to the right. If you know you're right, and my mother and father taught me this, if it's the truth, you don't have to apologize to anybody.
I was given instructions to pass it on to a U.S. Air Force C-130 that was landing there sometime within the next few hours. When we unloaded the cooler from the aircraft, the seal broke on it. It popped open.
This gives the people that are trying to get their infrastructure, their personnel, their drugs, their dirty bombs, their biological weapons, their chemical weapons into the United States without being noticed.
I have a tremendous amount of research, as you know, if you visited my table, and anybody that bought any of my research, there's no copyright with me. I want you to take it and make copies and get it to your friends. Educate as many people as possible.
I think that probably the hard landing that I had and bounced it around inside the aircraft on that particular occasion on a very hot day helped aid in breaking that seal. But when the seal broke, we found a large quantity of bricks wrapped in a blue medical tape.
Because this part of the border is open. It is not being patrolled. It is a perfect military strategy. It doesn't raise any eyebrows because we're focused on the children.
Is get the research, get mine and everybody else's up here and whatever else you can find, and pass it on to your friends. Get the videotapes. People are lazy today because they don't like to read, they rather watch the videotapes. But if that's what it takes, get the videotapes and make copies and get them out to your friends.
We opened it up. I put my finger across the powdery substance, crystalline type powder, put it on my tongue, and it immediately numbed my tongue. Previous experience told me that this was cocaine.
But we need to focus on our children because this is asymmetrical warfare. Everything says it is.
And then I think that most important thing, other than trying to educate each other and research and tell your neighbor, most important thing is that we have a mission to save our own souls and save the souls of all of us around us. So that's got to be one of the highlights.
In estimating the amount of cocaine inside that cooler, it was over 100 kilos of cocaine. I asked the pilot who it was going to, and he said in Honduras or in Panama it was going to a man called Dr. Harari.
And the way the United States government is responding to it is concealing that fact from the American people.
This whole campaign to expose this evil element that's casting its shadow across our great nation.
Dr. Harari, I would find out later, was actually Mike Harari, a Mossad agent assigned to General Manuel Noriega as a confidant.
In other words, they're assisting in the downfall of America. And you need to understand that.
And so as we go forward from here, folks, don't apologize to anybody. Just do your thing and talk to your brother and sister and say, hey, come on, let's go. We've got to save your soul too. And thank you very much.